Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. It's Kim here, and today is another episode of Antonio Makes Mondays, and I'm so excited to show you this kit. This is his Halloween kit, Halloween tags, and they're so Halloween, but they're a little bit romantic too. If you can call skulls and roses romantic, right? I was telling my husband, I said, it almost makes me think of, it's so opposite of each other. It's almost like till death do us part is what I saw in this. Excuse me. But anyway, it is a fun kit, and I've been playing around with it this afternoon, and we'll continue on. I'll show you what I've been doing. So this is the first page. There's 4 pages of tags in this kit. They're Halloween tags. And so this one is the pink with the skulls. And then we have these scary little aliens with some hearts and fun colors in the background, or traditional Halloween colors. And then we have these ones here. I love the combination of the skulls and roses, and then there's this cute little witch with a pumpkin and one of these scary clowns. And then this page has, again, skulls and roses. I love this cat in the pumpkin. He's such a sweetie. And another clown. Oh, and that's mine. Oh, this is the sheet that I was missing the other day, if you were watching. So I have 4 sheets here now. I can't work with all of them today, but I will play around with these in the near future and do a follow-up when I have a chance. Maybe by next Monday I can do a follow-up on these. So I thought I would start by working with these ones because I'm in a pink mood, and I'm surrounded by pink stuff today. And so whatever this mood is, I got to take advantage of it now because I'm not really a pink person. So this is an exception. So the very first thing I wanted to do, and I did make a couple of these and played around with them first to get them exactly the way I wanted them to be. So I'm going to go through the steps with you, and then show you the end results at the end. So I'm just going to cut up a couple of these. And I'll put this aside, and I will come back to this later. But I'm going to glue these down to a piece of what I call backing paper. And this is just to give them a little bit of added strength. Now, when you're working with a tag like this, it's really hard to embellish any further because it's beautiful. There's nothing you have to do. So what can you do to make this more enhanced and more where you have a chance to add other elements to, is to change it up and use this as the embellishment, sort of a tag on tag approach. And so then you're not taking away from this beautiful tag, and yet you can still build from behind, which is what we're going to do today. So first of all, I'm going to just cut them individually, leaving this white edge around here. It doesn't matter to me, but it just makes it easier for gluing when you're gluing in a small piece. And I'm just gluing it onto a piece of music sheet here. So I will take my glue stick and glue it down to the paper. And this is so that when I cut it out with the cut it out of the white edge, it'll have this heavier backing on it, and it'll all be done at once. And you can use book pages, you can use cardstock. I just have no shortage of book pages, so I figured I would do them right onto this music sheet. So if you watched my video last week, I think we had a lot of really good response to using music sheets to print on, so I hope you have a chance to do some. And there we go. So I'm going to let these dry. and just like that, I have one dry. Ta-da! I'm prepared today. Hopefully my video will be under an hour. And so now I'm just going to fussy cut this out. Now they will curl up a little bit, and that's okay. And yes, you get to watch me fussy cut. Woohoo! Don't worry if I'm absolutely perfect around the edges, because I'm going to ink it up anyway, and then you won't see any roughness once it's all inked up. It has really been fun being on this team so far, because I've had a lot of good response, and then of course Antonio came and left me a comment, and yeah, it's just a good feeling to create something that people enjoy. And I'm going to make a little hole punch in this one. Some of them have holes punched into them. Thank goodness on camera I don't have to do one that has a hole in it, because I never seem to line them up right. It's just easier if they don't have a hole, right? And take that out. And just take my ink and ink that up a little bit. And the only reason I want to put a hole in this is because I want it to look like a tag. But I'm going to work on a larger tag, which is right here. And so, as I was saying, I want this to be the embellishment on the tag. So it's going to be the focal point of this tag, and we are going to build on the background, and then this will be the finishing grand finale, sort of. So I had this fabric, and I had a very small piece of it. So I have enough to cover 4 tags, and I've already covered a couple of them. And I just tore it up to fit the tag, with the idea that I wanted this darker rose color at the top, because this part isn't going to be covered as much as it will be down here. And so all I did was I put a little bit of glue to hold it in place. So I'll just do that. And this is just my method for sewing, because I am going to go sew it afterwards. And if you want, I mean, you don't have to do a tag with fabric. You can do it with paper, and you know, you don't have to sew it. You can just glue it really well. So there's lots of options. I'm just lining it up towards the top there and smoothing it out. And I really like that this has a little bit of an edge around, not perfectly, because I really was tight with the material, but just enough to, you know, allow it to be sewn, and it's fully covered. And we will trim off the excess after it's sewn. So my next step would be to go to the sewing machine and sew this. So just like that, bam, it's sewn. Told you I was prepared today. So I'm going to take my scissors now and trim away the rough edges. And that's because you know, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I leave it the way it is, because I do like the shabbiness sometimes of these tags. But not all of you like that. So I'm going to trim it away flush so that it's more of a defined tag. And so there's my tag. It's got a hint of pink, and I think the manila really brings out the pink a little bit more. And so putting this tag on here as an embellishment, it would be totally lost. So I started playing with fabric, and I don't know, I did a little short. I don't know if it will show up before this video or after this video, because I'm just learning about shorts and how to do them. So it may show up after, but I had a child's dress and I took it all apart and took some of the scraps from it, and I started to play with the scraps. So the first thing I did was I cut out a piece of this pink satin, larger than the tag. And no shape to it. I'm just cutting it larger than the tag. I'm not worried about that little crease in there. Surprise? Are you surprised? Because I'm not going to iron it at this point. And so I'm just cutting this out a little bit larger than the tag itself. No rhyme or reason, just enough to make it stand out a little bit more. And then I had some of this sparkly tulle that I wanted to use on top of the satin. And I really want a couple pieces of it. So I'm just going to overlap it. And again, cut it out so I have the two pieces and a little piece left over. I'll be making some great little snippets after with that. So I'm just laying this down on top of the satin. So it just gives it a little bit of glittery sheen, and I'm resting my tag on top so you can see it there. And you can hopefully see the sparkles there. And then the dress also had a crinoline. And the crinoline came in several layers. So I just cut off one layer. And I will try to show you the dress later on in the different parts in another video. But for now, I'm just going to cut off a piece. And even though I'm really chopping this up today, I do use all my leftover pieces. I think you guys know that already. And so I'm going to just rest this crinoline on the bottom. And that's just to kind of, because it's a little bit stiffer, it will hold all these other pieces in place. So I have 4 layers here, and my idea is to sew this down knowing that the 4 layers are going to bunch up a little bit and make it a little bit thicker underneath. So if you are to do this yourself and you don't feel comfortable, you can put some glue underneath and kind of press it into place to hold it all in place. And my plan was to stitch all around this tag, so I have a full piece to work with, so it'll all be solid in one collection. And I already did that as well. Am I ever good today? But then I have a lot of work to do later because I'll be making more of these, that's for sure. And so I've stitched all around the tag, just straight stitch, nothing fancy, but you could zigzag, you could do some fancy stitching on there, whatever it is you like. And it puckered a little bit, and that's okay. I just wanted all of these layers to be stitched down really close to this tag, or really connected to this tag. And I'm just going to cut my threads here. See, I didn't do that. And then taking I have a set of pinking shears here because I didn't want to have defined lines. So I used the pinking shears, and I just kind of hacked it around. Nothing, no real shape to it. I'm just kind of going around the tag a little bit. Creating kind of an oval around this tag, so you can see, and I'll keep that to go through, and you can see that there's 4 layers here, and some are are lifting up a little bit, which is what I want, and some are flat. So I'm just going to take my scissors now and just give it a little snip around here and there, because I do want this to be pretty shabby. And I want all of these layers to lift up. So just clipping this all the way around and just shabbying it up a little bit so it will lift a little bit more. And then I laid it down on this tag and I said, not quite enough yet. I want more. But you can see it's getting to be really, really cute. So then I went and I took more of the same crinoline. I'll get a bigger piece than this. I've got scissors, I've got small scissors, I've got too much stuff on my desk, as always. And I stuck a layer of this over top of the tag. And just cut it just slightly larger than the tag for now. Oop, where'd it go? Here it is. Just threw it in the pile there. I hope you can see that layer on there. And then the same thing with this sparkly tulle. I just cut 2 more layers of that. So I'm going to just fold this better in half. And it doesn't have to be perfectly shaped. The whole idea is to make it shabby in the end. And so I've got a little bit of sparkle coming through and a little bit more here coming through. Now, is that the right side? Yeah, that's the right side. And I'm going to lift this up and I'm just going to put a little bit of hot glue down the center. And then very carefully, because this is hot glue, you don't want to be pressing it down right with your fingers. I'm just kind of stretching it into that spot. So it's just basically held onto here. And then I'm going to take my tag, and where I can see the sewing lines, that's the only place I want to put glue, is on the inside of that sewing line and all in the middle. Nothing on the outside. So taking my hot glue gun, just following the lines of my stitching, I'm just going to put the glue on quite generously along the back. I hope you can see that. And then flipping it over, I'm just going to put the tag sort of, well, in the center, but high center. And then holding it in place. Now, I use the hot glue because you get an instant tack, and hot glue works very good with fabric, better than your tacky glues or your white glues or your fabric glue. I find it works way better, and it's an instant hold. So once it's secure on there, it's not going anywhere. So I'm hoping that you can see where the lines are around the tag, and then we've got all this extra. But I don't like this part here, so I'm going to trim that down just a little bit closer to the tag. So just giving it a shave. There's just a little bit too much showing through for me. And now all of this extra tulle, I don't want to completely cover up the fabric. So I'm going to cut it sort of loosely around that, but leaving a bigger margin so you can see that there's a little bit more fluff and substance to this tag without taking away from this part here. So I'm just going to take, again, my pinking shears. Now you can use your decorative scissors. It's a little harder to do, but if you have a pair of pinking shears, it'll certainly work well. And I'm just trimming it however I can get in there. Now, put that aside to go through after. Because yes, I do go through this, and if I can use the pieces in snippet rolls or in clusters, I will certainly add it into other stuff. So now it's a little bit more shabby looking, and I see there's one little part here that's lifting a little bit, so I'm just going to get underneath there and put a little bit of glue in there. Must have missed it. There. So you can see it's getting a little bit more shabby looking. And then I took out some different trims. Now, I have, this is an avocado dyed fringe. The fringe was white before, and I just dyed it when I was doing some avocado paper. And so I'm just going to put a layer of that underneath here. Not too low hanging down. I just want it to be where you can see it a little bit, and it's just helping to lift that up a little bit, because that's what I really want, is to lift all this stuff up. So I kind of know where I want this to be. I need another glue stick. And just taking my glue gun, I'm going to run a bead of glue across the edge of it. And line that up. Now I played around with lace and trim. There's so many different ones that you can use. Anything will work fine, but I just wanted to give it a little bit of a lift here. And then I have a combination of things. Now, if I had used this trim, which you'll see later on, I wouldn't have bothered to put this fringe on there. I would have just glued the trim underneath here enough so that you can see the tag is lifting a little bit, and then it has the decorative edge. But for this one, I have this other champagne beads, kind of a champagne pink, that I wanted to use. And so, because it has this sort of a grosgrain type of ribbon on the edge here, and it's more of a sewing ribbon, I wanted it to tuck underneath there where I wouldn't see that fabric. So I just have it just barely tucked under there, so you can't really see that fabric at all, right? And so I know that I want 5 beads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's kind of where I want it to be if you were to look at it from this point of view. So with this type of trim, and someday we're going to make some of this trim, but when you buy it from the stores or machine made or however you want to call it, they don't stop the thread. They bead on one bead, and then the thread just moves over and they bead on the next. So if you cut this and you're not careful, the beads will come off. So what I do is I lay this on the table where I can see the threads. Now I don't know, they do a very good job of disguising them, but the threads are there along the back, along the bottom here. And if you ever examine this type of trim, you'll know, you'll be able to see the thread. So before I cut this, so it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm just going to put this in here just for you to see. I'll put it this way. So before I cut this, I'm going to cut it in the middle, in between those 2 beads. I take my glue gun and I put glue on that thread, and then I just go around to all the edges of the threads too, very lightly. You could do this with your white glue as well. Now I'm just going to move that away a little bit. And I wait till it cools a little bit. Experiment with your glue gun, because you're going to get burnt if you do it too fast. I don't have any burn left in my fingers anymore, so I can do this. But do be careful with your glue gun. And so what I've done with the glue is I've pressed it into the threads so that when I cut it, I never have to worry that this bead's going to fall off, and I don't have to worry that these beads are going to fall off. So it is secure now, holding all of that in place. So I'm going to take my scissors and cut right down the center. And you really can't see the bead of glue. If you were looking closer, you could. And that's going to be glued down anyway. And sure, you could very quickly glue it down and hope for the best. But if you miss it, or if you catch it with your fingernail, 9 times out of 10, you'll pull the beads off before you get it to the project. So, just take a little extra precaution and put a bead of glue, any kind of glue. You could use a glue stick, but it's kind of iffy as well. I prefer to use a hot glue, and if I'm going to use tacky glue, then you have to let it sit and dry. There's no, you have to wait, or use a heat tool or something to dry it. So the hot glue works fine, pressing it into place. And now I can glue it onto my project, knowing that these beads are not going to fall off, and they're not going to fall off on this project. So I can have these tossed around in my craft room, knowing that they're not going to come apart. And I do the same when I'm working with this type of trim. You wouldn't know it right now, but I always glue it, especially here, because if I didn't glue it this way, it would fray on the edges. So I always glue it wherever I'm going to cut it, and then I let it harden, and then I cut it with my scissors. And I always cut the glue along these threads before I take it off, wherever I want, you know, however many lengths I want. And so then I would put glue here and glue all the way up here, spreading it out so that when I cut it with the scissors, nothing is going to fray. So just keep that in mind if you're ever working with this type of trim, to always use the glue on the back first. And, you know, you have to learn what is your tolerance level, definitely, because if you're sticking your fingers into hot glue, you can get burnt. So just do some practice tests and see how long it takes to soften, or to feel cool enough to touch, but still soft enough that you can press it down so you don't have that great big bead in there. But it's entirely up to you if you can do it. If you can't, then go with your white glue. Excuse me. So then I want to take these beads and I want to tuck them under my tag so that they're not visible. The ribbon isn't visible. I just want to see the beads hanging down next to the fringe. So I'm going up a little bit higher here. And I'll just run a bead of glue underneath there. And the other thing about this glue is putting the glue on ahead of time is that it kind of makes it a little bit stiffer, so it's not all flip-floppy on you when you're going to place it down. And there we go. So now I have these lovely beads hanging from here, and you cannot see the ribbon or the ugly ribbon that's underneath there. But I do see I've gone a little bit higher than I want, so I'm going to just trim this down a little bit more. And so now you can see a little bit more of the beads. It's looking cute, isn't it? So the next thing I'm going to do is, when I put the fabric down, of course, I covered the hole for the hanger. And I'm using my larger hole maker in my crocodile. Now, cutting through fabric is, of course, not as easy as paper. So if you've got a pokey tool or a pair of scissors or a pen, whatever you've got handy, just open up your hole a little bit more. And to tie everything together, I'm going to use the same sparkly tool to make a hanger. And I don't measure, I don't worry if it's crooked or not, I just know how much I want. So about like that, maybe, you know, that's about 7 or 8 inches. And so taking my tool now, I always stretch it, especially if I'm using it for a tie. I like it to be a little bit more distressed looking. And then folding it in half. And I'm weaving this one from the front. Sometimes I weave from the back. Depends on what I want to show. And that's one thing you'll just have to practice and see how it ends up showing through. And so I've put the folded end through. Taking my 2 ties, I'm going to slip it through that end. I've got stuff on my fingers here. And pulling it tight. So now I have a tag where this beautiful tag is the embellishment. It's shabby, it's got some beadwork on there. The only thing I'm going to do now is add a few little flowers. Now I've picked out this one because I really like this little ivory one, and it goes nice with the beads. But I also wanted to add a little bit of pink in there. So I have some little pink or white flowers. And yes, this is full of them. I bought this, they came 144 in a package for $2. I think that's what it was. 144 for $2. And I bought like 5 packs of them because they're so versatile. They're already pre-made. And I have my, and I don't use these things very often, so it's time for me to start digging this stuff out. I have some Tim Holtz Distress Stain, and it's one of those dauber ones, which makes me realize that there's lots of opportunity to make other types of stains yourself using a little bit of your ink, refill inks, and maybe a little bit of alcohol and some water, and getting an old dauber, a bingo dauber, and using those to make new daubers. So I'm just dusting it with a little bit of this pink. It's kind of a, I think, what is it called? It's called spun sugar. And you can also do this with your ink and a little bit of water. You know, some people take a ink pad and put it right onto their glass or their workspace, and then spritz it with water. You can do the same thing with those tools as well. I've got this stuff and I've got to use it up. But these are wet, and I have a set that's dry, so I'm going to move them over and take my dry set. Close that because I've already spilt this once on the floor. That's when you know how many you have. Okay, so I have this little rose here, and I just thought I would, again, this is all stuff I'm trying to use stuff up now and get it done and gone is my new method. So I'm just putting that in the corner. Again, don't want to take away from that tag, but I do want to add a little bit of embellishment still onto the tag itself. So then I'm going to put a little bit of glue here and add that down in that corner. Add another one in this corner, kind of the rule of thirds, where you add a little bit to your project. And then I'm just going to put one up here where that hole was from the tag, because now I see it, I don't like it. And that's it. So that's how you turn a beautiful tag like this into more of an embellishment to embellish another project. So you're not taking away from something that's already decorated. It really doesn't need anything else. I just put that little flower on there. Yes, I could use these separately and just decorate them and have a flower on the top if I just want a little tag to tuck in. But I love making these shabby tags and embellishing them even further and using all kinds of further embellishments to make something a little bit more substantial. So then, you know, I want to talk about how we always have leftovers. So I have that sheet of tags because I did print. This is my second sheet. So this is my second sheet that I'm working on. So I glued them down here with the idea that I'm going to cut them out. And if you recall my book I made, my cluster book, I started to glue tags in there, and then I realized, you know, I always have like sheets like this where I have 4 tags that left over from something. So I decided I'm going to start gluing these things down onto their own pages and in their own books. So I'm making a tag book and a cluster book. And this is so that when I just want one tag, I can just cut it out and leave the rest intact. So I'm going to show you what I've done. And again, I just loosely cut around the tag because I know I'm just gluing it into here to, 1, get it off my desk, and 2, give it a little bit more substance by adding it to another piece of paper, sort of like doing a masterboard. And I can cut these out flush, and they're good to go. I can add them onto another piece of maybe some cardstock to make it into a journaling card, like a tag journaling card. But right now on the back side of this is just more music. But you can still write in between the lines in there as well. And I'm not going to do all of these. I'm just going to fill another page to show you. So I think I'll just take it like this. taking my glue stick. Let's start with the big one because I think I can only fit one big one. I think that's what the problem was. Maybe I can get two. I think it was one, but it might be two. And then gluing this down to the, oh, yeah, gluing this down to the page. And I can get one in here if I just trim that back a little bit more. I have a good laugh for you to see how things worked out for me here. And this happens to me all the time. So when I'm doing these, I'm never really surprised. Okay, if I trim that down a little bit more there. Oh yeah, I can fit that large one in. And I glue right on the paper because I know it's going to dry clear. I don't worry about glue showing through. And these are going to be further embellished. Okay, so then I have these two sheets. I have a couple more blanks here that I can add this one onto after. But what I wanted to show you was, okay, remember yesterday, or not, maybe you don't remember yesterday. Maybe it was the other day. Remember this fabric? I was showing you, and I said this would make a really nice journal card, or journal cover. And the reason I liked this type of fabric, boy, I need a day of just clearing off my desk here. That I really like this type of fabric because I thought you could follow the lines with laces and trims, and I showed you that. And then when I was doing this, I realized I needed to put a book together, and so I decided, well, I'm gonna put this cover this right on here. So this is the back side of it, and you know, it's not perfectly straight. The fabric stretched out on me, but I did manage to get it wrapped inside here and added a little bit of lace. And I'm going to add some pockets and further embellish it on the outside. So I figured this is going to be my tag book. So I already have a couple in here. This is one that I had already cut from, and that as well. And so I'm just going to open this up and put my two sheets back in here. Now I probably, you know, once I get going, I won't be able to keep all of these sheets in here because they'll be added thickness from all these tags. But this way, when I have leftover tags, I can add them in here and just keep going and then cut out what I want, because I'm so tired of having all these little leftover bits, and so I can just glue this down in here and it's in my book. So then I started to to decorate this book. I'll just tuck that in here to put in. So I gave myself like a little belly band here out of pink lace, just so that if I had a few tags and I didn't have time to glue them in, I would just put them in here until I did have a bunch to glue in. So I'm going to close this glue up first. So then I decided to embellish on the front, and I just took, you know, I had shown you this ribbon. I had that rickrack sitting there. This is the belly band that flipped around, and I had a piece of quilt material and a little bit of scraps. So I did kind of follow the lines with the idea that this was kind of going to be a focal point. I thought I would add one of these little flowers. I think I have one more left. Yes, I do. But I also have some burgundy ones. The burgundy might look nice too. So I may add some of these flowers in there. I'm not sure. But what I did do is I realized that there again, this can become an embellishment on my book. So I figured, well, I'm going to lose some of my decoration there, a little bit of that rickrack and a little piece of that quilt I might lose. But I'm going to do exactly the same thing on this book. I'm going to, I pre-cut my tulle and my crinoline, and so I'm just going to put a little dot of glue in here just to hold it in place, stretching it onto the glue so I don't get burnt, and yeah, it's not too hot, so I can. And then I have this skull that I did. This is one of the larger tags, Okay, and so I'm going to, again, I had stitched this down with all the layers, and so I'm again going to put some hot glue around all the inside of the stitching. And then just press that into place. And I think I have such a cute tag book. Now, I would never normally use skulls or this type of thing for a project, but for myself, I think it's a perfect little project. And so I'm now going to take my pinking shears and trim away some of that excess. Trying not to take too much away. I really want it to show through a little bit more, and I will play around with it a little bit more yet too. And then I think, do I want that flower? No, I think it seems a little bit stark to me, so I think I'm going to put this one. So again, the same thing. I'm going to, I only had 3 of these and I've used the other 2 now, so that's it for these ones. But I do have those 3 little pink ones. So maybe they will go along here. And I can always add a couple more. Maybe I can put one up here yet. Yeah, I think I'll put it up there. So this one will go up here. And these 2 down here. And I will play and embellish this even further. I can probably add a little bit of these beads onto here as well. Tuck those in. Yeah, that looks cute, doesn't it? Okay, it's going to happen. All right, so running my glue, I figure about 4 of them. So I'm just going to put a little bit of glue here on the edge to catch it, and then all along the bottom of these beads. And I already did the edge of that one, so it should be good. And I'm just smoothing it out so it's flat. I probably could use my glue gun as well to smooth it out a bit. And now that this is dry, I can cut it in between. Probably should have put this before I put my rose, but that's okay. We can do things a little backwards once in a while. And I think that will look really cute under there like that. I think so. Okay, I'm going to put a little bit of glue there. And tuck that in underneath so you don't see it. And there is my tag book. I hope you can see that. So this is where all my unused tags are going to be hosted. Thank you for this idea, Antonio. And so you will see, you know, I'm going to work on this in a little bit. I've got some in my other book. I'm going to shift over or, you know, transfer over to this book. And in my follow-up day, I will show you this book and what it looks like then. So there you have it. I made the book, and I have actually 3 more tags done. So this one, I just added a little bit of pink on top of this to blend it in a little bit more. On this one, I used the fringe and these champagne glass beads. On this one, I used the dark pink flower, but I've got other flowers too. Even though that's the last of these cream ones, I have other flowers. And in this case, I really extended the beads further down, so it gives a little bit more. They almost look like part of a skeleton in itself, don't they? As elegant as they are, they almost look like part of a skeleton, like the bones of a skeleton. So there you have my little project. I see I could use a little flower up there yet, and I'll be playing around with this just a little bit more. But it's more pink and more fun. I hope, Antonio, that you like what I've done. So the 4 sets of tags are sold as a kit. I think it's called a mini kit. So they're very reasonably priced. And if you do go to his website and purchase them, if you use the coupon code KIM10, capital K, capital I, capital M, all caps, and the number 10, you will get a 10% discount on any of his products, including his subscriptions. And I think he has a creator's lounge, or kind of a subscriber's lounge. And then not only will you get 10% off, I will get a little tiny commission. And Antonio, of course, you're so helping to support Antonio as well. So I hope you enjoyed this. I will come back with some finished projects with these, because I do have some plans with this, with some black lace and velvet ribbons and stuff. So we will come back with that one. And then, yeah, I will show this up in a follow-up video or something very soon. And you'll see more of my little tag book. I'm just loving this book. I could hardly wait to show you this. I'm going to be embellishing this even further. So this will be eventually completely covered. But at least now I know where my tags are going to be hosted, and I get them off my desk. So thank you very much for watching. I wish you all a very creative day and a creative week. We're at a brand new week. Tomorrow is Techniques Tuesday, and I have a fun project for tomorrow as well. So do stop in and join me for that. And I look forward to seeing you all soon. Bye for now.